Pyramids are 100% of stellar construction. They are not from the indigenous population. They predate the very Egyptian culture and were built by a conglomerate of cooperative races of the Federation as generators of free energy and potentializers of consciousness for travel without a ship. More details to follow. They are energy power plants at a planetary level. General information. Age of construction. They, Giza, were built right after the flood, as the matrix was being installed, and also held the purpose of distributing worldwide the frequency that the moon was transmitting. Sphinx is like 30,000 years old, but the exact dates are sketchy even for me. As I have explained before, anything before the moon matrix is nearly impossible to calculate. In short, free electric power generator, supplying electricity to the base and nearby facilities. Frequency manipulation range in conjunction with other pyramids on the planet for planetary frequency manipulation from below. Naturalization and manipulation of frequencies of the lunar matrix. Physical dimensional portal for astral travel. Constructors, Federation Engineering. Any specific race that built them? Again, many races helped, not only one. It was a Federation effort. The Taigetans were involved, but not only. They were built as part of a planetary energy network by the Federation, multiple races, because it was a station or a base, mostly underground, with 2 levels, that is still there. The main builder was Thoth, and they were built in a way that nobody considers today, which is the anti-gravity levitation of some stones assisted by internal cranes, which are still there. That is the basis of the anchors and where the huge cables or ropes and pulleys passed. This in the great chamber of the Pyramid of Cheops. Yes, please explain, Swaruu, exactly how they were built. It's the second question after what is their function that people ask. We will talk about the function later. Levitation with anti-gravity devices, then pulled to their locations with the use of a crane that was installed in the king's chamber, in the case of the Cheops pyramid. The pulleys and where the system was installed is still there. The levitation was only to remove most of its weight. The cranes? It was built in a spiral movement or way. How were the cranes powered? Electricity and hydraulics, manpower with the small ones, because the stones were not that heavy. There was electricity? Back then, all Egypt had electricity in every home. They were built with several methods, not just one. Humans always expect only one. They mobilized quarry limestone, found further south, as officially described. They were cut with energy tools, industrial lasers, and compressed sound saws. More than anything, compressed sound saws. Lasers take second place. The stones were then levitated into place using anti-gravity and also sound. Sonic levitation is a system that is widely used in ancient constructions, including those in Peru, among other places. Even so, a system of support cranes was used that were in what is now known as the Great Chamber. A large external ramp was not used as many suggest, since the construction of said ramp exceeds that of the pyramid itself. That is illogical. But spiraling ramps were used within the same pyramid. Ramps that are still there because there are still hollow places. They are the ramps. Liquid stone, liquidated with sound, was used as a means of filling and holding or gluing between the stones and the structures. Liquid stone for the external ones. They were put into place with the use of molds. Liquid stone like cement? Not exactly. Components like cement are brittle and of inferior quality. I mean that with a certain temperature, assisted by sonic frequencies according to the frequency of the stone, it liquefies. This form of construction by liquefying stone is still used in Taygeta as a base construction medium for buildings and houses. That is not building by mold, that is constructing by cuts. It is made with a plasma tip, like a plasma laser beam, and according to what they say, that chaotic shape only increases the strength of the construction by having angular, pyramidal, triangular geometry of great structural strength. It should be said that each construction is different. The plasma tip does not apply in all places. Egyptian technology also used sound levitation without anti-gravity assistance. Comments Robert. Yes, especially the function of the pyramidon. What is pyramidon? Comments Robert. The tiny pyramid that was placed on top of the pyramid. The energy capacitator? It was pure white quartz, covered in gold leaf. Those ones were not at the tips of the pyramids. They had energy concentrating properties and served as wireless Tesla power transmission antennas. So, liquefied limestone with specific sound frequencies was used. You withdraw them and it returns to being solid. Local workers were used, not slaves. People who freely volunteered to work part-time, as happens in holographic societies. And advanced machinery. Also, not so advanced but efficient machinery, such as pulleys and cranes. Comments Robert. I wouldn't have minded working there. In good conditions, obviously. Yes, they were good conditions. Is this enough in terms of how they were built? I think so, Swaruu. You will know better. I have no idea how they were built. Asks Robert. Who is credited with the construction? It is attributed to Enoch and Thoth. But as with everything, it was a cooperative construction of the Federation, with the local population as also part of the Federation or as under the Federation wing. Some say that Enoch and Thoth were the same person. Thank you very much. Okay, let's talk now about the function of pyramids. What are they? What are they for? So, the purpose was to generate power? They were not tombs, nor an astrological place. Yes, electricity. And to send power, electricity, all over the earth, no matter where you are. But also to stabilize the frequency of the entire planet. Make it even more positive, with an inverse manner than the moon does now. There are pyramids all over the earth, placed at ley line locations. All over the world, most are in China. It's all part of the same system. You could be anywhere on Earth back then, and you would have wireless power with this system. Why isn't it working anymore then? Because the cabal doesn't want it to work. Because there is no billing the population for free energy. It is a planetary scale free energy device. But it served other purposes, which I will go into a bit later. Pyramids are huge, impossible to manufacture without very high technology. Slaves? Not even as a joke. Plus, Egypt didn't use slaves. Notice the 8 sides of the Great Pyramid. Topography of the place. To understand the pyramid, you have to understand that it was not built only to be seen from below, but from above. And few people seem to know of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Many researchers indicate that the pyramids pointed to Alpha Draconis, but not only to Alpha Draconis, also to the Pleiades and Sirius. Pyramids on other worlds, widespread use as free power plants with wireless electrical transmission, positioning on ley lines to increase and potentiate planetary effects, and depolarization between the charge of the atmosphere and the electrical charge of the ground. Primary grounding method by aquifer mantle. Type of energy, 0-point energy by charge differential. Wait, other worlds? You mean other planets? Correct. Usage is widespread in Federation worlds. In Taygeta, not to go any further, they are used as power generators. All this is 0-point energy. Here it says having the base at 440 Egyptian cubits, when my data tells me that it measures 365.25 Egyptian cubits. Same measure. Comments Robert. That is important, yes. For some esoteric reason, the truth is hidden. because all measurements are related to the dimensions of the Earth. Yes, but they can get us in trouble with that. And that's what they want, because they move or alter the calculations. Notice how the Queen's chamber is at the geometric point of the pyramid. That's where the power collector was. It was covered in polished white limestone. From inside, it was causing an internal bounce of particles coming from the atmosphere, entering through the crystal covered with gold at the tip. Pure white quartz covered with gold leaf. The particles come down from the atmosphere looking for Earth. They bounce off the white limestone that has piezoelectrical and insulating properties that prevent the electrical particles, be it positrons plus or electrons minus, because the polarity of the charge differential between the atmosphere and the soil varies and is inverted, from returning back to the atmosphere. They enter looking for land, because it is the point of greatest connection between the atmospheric charge and that of the ground. They bounce inwardly off the white limestone and concentrate in the Queen's chamber, where a depolarization to the ground takes place, as you can see above. What was covered in white? The whole pyramid, as in this photo, or collector of the energy inside? The whole pyramid. The energy is concentrated in the Queen's chamber and gets depolarized with the underground chamber that makes land and connects with the aquifers there, creating a concentrated differential of charges between sky and Earth. Comments Robert. It is clearly seen that it is a power generator. This is the same as having a continuous and voltage-regulated lightning bolt. The King's chamber served as a control room and for other uses of the pyramid, such as being a portal. Above the King's room was a series of high-tech capacitors that regulated energy depolarization. And for efficiency, it was set slightly to one side, so it would not interfere with the concentration of energy in the Queen's chamber. Even today, in the underground chamber, there are traces of cables and metal structures for grounding. It is dry now, but water was flowing, creating a potentialized earth effect, which has been the ground connection collector, or the part opposite to the one above, the pyramid and its limestone that compressed and concentrated the atmospheric charge. This part potentiated the charge of the Earth, creating an enormous differential of charges between the atmosphere and the Earth. Clouds and ground, most of the time, not always, have opposite charges, especially in dry places, but not only. Lightning is a disarray and uncontrolled discharge of differential energy. But if you have a differential charge, although not dramatically different as to create discharge, lightning, you can channel it in an orderly and continuous way towards the ground. Then you have a place of continuous charge flow, and you have your free energy. That is why they are on ley lines and underground water, because you are giving them a greater connection to the ground, greater connection capacity and control of charge flow between the atmosphere and the ground. This is pure Tesla. He knew this. You do not need nuclear, hydroelectric, or thermoelectric reactors to generate electricity. You only need one or another pyramid. It is clean, it generates more energy than 50 nuclear power plants, it has other functions, it needs little maintenance. It does not generate anything, it only concentrates the charge differential between sky and Earth. It is the planet itself that creates the energy. Between sky and Earth, there is a change in polarity depending on atmospheric circumstances. It does not imply any problems because the pyramid only reverses electronically the charges with its internal devices, which are no longer there. The energy comes from a continuous and controlled ray and with regulated and therefore useful voltage. Understanding pre-classical ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, a square means space, cosmos. A square with an X in the middle means a place in the cosmos. A circle with an X means an exact, precise place. It means that it represents an exact place in the cosmos, not on Earth, as seen from above, as from a ship. The base is or measures 365.25 Egyptian cubits on each side. 440 is misinformation. I fully trust my data. Represents 1 Earth year for each side. The king's chamber measures 365.25 Egyptian inches on each side as well. You can see what's left of the collector's container. To the left of here, you can see a black box that is one of the narrow corridors, one of many in the pyramid. That goes about 4 meters from there and then goes up like 60 to where there is a small door of 14 centimeters by 14 centimeters. I can't get into mathematics that is all over the pyramid because apparently it differs from official terrestrial data, and although that may have a simple and surmountable explanation for us, I don't have it now, so this would require more time. The door in the picture is exactly 364 Egyptian inches tall. This piece is exactly 364 Egyptian inches tall. That corresponds to the 364 degrees of celestial movement of a star. That is the central base of the construction of the pyramid. The star is Enlil. The 3 stars of Orion that conspiracy Egyptologists take as something reptile is wrong because in the past Osiris was related to Orion. It has nothing to do with reptiles or with grace or with Orion as in those who come from there. Once again, it points to Taygeta. like the Apis bull. This idea of the Taurus constellation is non-terrestrial. Taurus itself, as a constellation, is dominated by the races of the Pleiades, found in the center of this constellation. In one of the horns is Aldebaran. It contains the only Taygetan colony outside of M45. Aldebaran shares energy from the ether side with this Sun 13 and with Alcyone, but it also shares with the star Enlil. Let's move on now to the underground chamber, marked with the number 3. Below, there is another larger chamber. At the bottom of this chamber, there is a pool of water with aquiferous mantles that connect with the Nile. It is still there, and Egyptologists, although many already know it, do not tell the people. I had to draw this myself, the blue lines and the red box. There is another chamber there. It contains at this time several misnamed sarcophagi with writing documents about the very pyramid, written in Moldavite stone. They hide this very well. They are not sarcophagi. They are containers. In this chamber, there is a rectangular corridor with 4 pillars in the corners, and in the center, a flooded chamber with a sarcophagus filled with Moldavite carved like the Thoth tablets. In this area, in red, marked by me, there are 2 domes, one above the other. The first one is 30 meters deep, the second 60. It contains innumerable rooms, corridors, hidden technology, systems like any other contemporary Federation base. The entrance is under the Sphinx, and the control is under the right ear. Are the pyramids still operational? What is missing to make them work properly? No, they are off. They do not have the electrical equipment inside to channel the energy. They do not have the quartz tip covered with gold, and they do not have their coating that gave them the ability to concentrate the energy. It was an insulation. Just as they are now, they dissipate their energy into the atmosphere again. They do not concentrate it in one point, King's Chamber. The charge of the atmosphere discharges towards the center of the pyramid, reaching Earth with the flow of underground water that connects to the Nile, using the Earth and discharges room, Queen's Chamber. Without its smooth cover, its charge dissipates into the atmosphere. They have not removed it in order to use it elsewhere. They have removed it to stop its operation. That's why they don't have their covers. And only pyramids in Egypt have this function, or others in the world the same? There are many in Mexico. Same function? They all have the same primary function, but they are not all generators of free energy. Only some, not all, like the one of the sun, that is a generator. In some in Mexico, mercury has been found in large quantities. This proves that they were used as generators and as portals. But they were also built by you or other races. I imagine others. By others, because it was a federation all conglomerate. Those from Crimea and Alaska are also from Taygeta or Council of Nine, Alcyone Council. Asks Robert, and why do they have that disposition as if it were Orion? I think you said it once, Swaruu. And is there any reason for them to be 3 pyramids with different sizes? It's a message, as a distraction even. It's kind of iconic. Orion is the most easily recognizable constellation from Earth, but the pyramids internally were focused on Alcyone, Sirius, Alpha Draconis. Returning to the function of the pyramids. Pyramids, what they are for, surpass human understanding, average at least. The function of free energy generators and others is not the primary function of the pyramids. That is the secondary function, incidentally. Primary one, they won't understand. It is a stargate, but it is not a portal, although it can be. That is something else. It is a mechanism that allows you to travel. Like I told you, like a warp ship engine in reverse. It is a place that potentiates the psychic, mental, and natural astral travel energy of each person. The energy flow described above, pure positronic energy of exact frequency compatible as constructive interference with the human aura and psychic energy. In contrast to Wi-Fi and invasive microwave electromagnetism, which is frequency destructive to human aura and human psychic energy. You go in there when it is working, and even as it is now, and you leave your body. You travel wherever. Yes, there are channels or small tunnels to focus on traveling to Sirius, among other places. Leaving the material body and being free in the astral through the universe. It was used as amplifiers of consciousness, where someone entered, leaving their body there in the king's chamber, and with that they traveled, astral projecting wherever they wanted to go, outside of time and space. They could return to the pyramid a couple of hours later, but for them it could have been days, weeks, or months or years of travel experience. This is not a secondary use for the pyramid. It is considered one of the main uses. Even today this works, but not with the same force or efficiency as in its day. One of the most important accounts is when Napoleon himself entered the Great Pyramid and spent the night there. It is well known that when he came out, he was no longer the same man. He had a very strong mystical revelation that night. Asks Robert. Would you advise me to travel to Egypt and enter the pyramids to meditate? Is it positive energy? Yes, it is positive, Robert. That is why I say they will not understand. Because it has no material function useful to the modern mind. Because it is to achieve things that are not supposed to exist. It is extraterrestrial understanding. You have to think like an extraterrestrial, not with material profit, nor with nonsense like religious beliefs like tombs that everyone knows they are not. Again, they tell you all in the Hollywood. In 1997, the film Contact with Jodie Foster was created, in which plans arrive from deep space to create an incredibly expensive large machine, which is believed to have many complicated functions, such as a portal or a means of transport. In the end, that great colossal machine is only to give a mystical experience to whoever makes it work. And you can see there how society discredits that experience in the end, worthless. That is what pyramids are. From the recent conversation with Yazhi, they were constructed as power plants. Pyramids are the perfect shape for planetary-based zero-point energy. But as a side effect from such a power plant, they become portals as well, mostly astral portals, helping people fly, astral travel, remote view, live that way. They can also be full-blown portals where material things go to and from. They also work in an array, bringing a certain frequency to a planet, even moving the entire planet to a higher realm or density. They connect with others in key ley line places all over a planet and create an energy grid that sustains a planet in high vibration, and that can even be controlled at will. This is a very similar way a starship's engine keeps the ship and itself in another density wherever it is. Some pyramids don't even need to have complex mechanisms inside, as they work with vibrational synchronicity, reflecting and vibrating to the same frequency other pyramids vibrate to. With that, they also contribute to sustain the planetary frequency and also augment the power-producing efficiency of those that do have electric components inside. The pyramids are frequency generators. Placed there at the same time as the moon, they had to take part on the creation of the matrix. But under Federation control, they could be capable of removing the lunar matrix by changing the frequencies and mingling with the ones of the moon in a very real way, providing a way to control the frequency of the Earth without having to go all the way to the moon. Those are the main functions of a pyramid. They were built for those specific purposes from the very beginning. Also note that some pyramids were built as monuments to pyramids. I mean, they don't do much, only be there. Back to previous conversation with Swaruu. Questions? Okay, yeah, thank you. And thanks for the effort with the images and drawings. Fascinating topics. So then, that's what also served the pyramids? To increase one's potential as the portal? But if the builders were so advanced, they should have been able to achieve it with their own bodies, right? Like this gentleman from India. As I have already told you, the true purpose of the Great Pyramids is to augment the potential of everyone who is inside them for interstellar travel at will. Astral flight, with or without the physical body, remains the same. The transmutation of personal energy, of the self, into another dimension, with all intention of doing it or achieving it. Yes, it can be done without a pyramid, because you are an energetic torus, and an energetic torus is a Merkaba, which are two interlocking pyramids. You already are the pyramid. I understand. Under the pyramids, is there another inverted pyramid? Yes and no. A pyramid, the one on the physical side, it is what you see. The other pyramid is energetically intertwined with the one you can see. The other pyramid is inverted to form the Merkaba. It is not under the material pyramid, it is intertwined. Comments Robert. Wow, is it intertwined in an energetic way? One physical and the other non-material. A pyramid is material 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. The other is on the other side, spirit world, the ether, 3, 6, 9, creating the Merkaba, thus creating the flow of energy called free. Is it true that visualizing yourself in this Merkaba, it is a vehicle for interdimensional travel? Visualizing yourself is activating an intention. Yes, it works. That's how it works. Asks Robert. Do you know anything about very fine white sand found inside the pyramids? Note, the Nile passed over a part of the dome. White basalt? Comments Robert. Yes, powdered. I need more data. Comments Robert. There is a lot of it, like white sand. It's not sand. It is some material that the body gives off. It's there in large quantities. You have to consider that the pyramids were built with quarry stone that was found in the south and with liquid stone. It seems to me that it is part of the liquid stone, as what cement powder would be. I need more data. Asks Robert. And what does this image mean? The placement of the white limestone deck in place, using levitation. Okay, I have two questions. First, why did the Federation choose Egypt as its main base? And second, related, what does it have to do with Israel? Does it have anything to do with it? Egypt, because it is in a specific place, like the geometric center of the earth, on the ley lines, and this increases the energy efficiency of the pyramids, and also distributes and connects the energy distribution with other pyramids in other parts of the world, mostly also on ley lines. As the main point, it was chosen as the main dump base as well. Israel. This is getting into history. In themselves, the pyramids have nothing to do with Israel, other than as a connection to Isis, Ea, Ra, Anu, and Enki, El, Is, Ra, El, Trinity, Triangulum constellation, basis of the Kabbal's beliefs, and later by association with Akhenaten Nefertiti and the Exodus. Israel is a construction of the Kabbal. It started with Akhenaten and Nefertiti. There was no Jewish or Hebrew people, the idea or concept of the chosen people. Chosen as the gods, El, pointing them out. These gods, with the Elohim among which there are various races, including Taygeta. The so-called people of Israel, that itself takes its name from the Trinity of Triangulum, the base of Illuminati ideologies, as the triangle that looks at everything. Triangulum constellation, Eye of Horus. It is an ancient positive symbol hijacked by the Cabal. So the Hebrew people are none other than the group of Egyptians who followed Akhenaten, Moses, and Nefertiti when they were expelled from Egypt by rioters, imposing their monotheism under the orders of Meritaten, working with Ramses II, circa 1330 BC. There are no Jewish genes. It is just an attribute to the people chosen by those who founded the Cabal, Nefertiti and her puppet Akhenaten. Asks Robert. Question. Dump as a general base for the United Federation of Planets. And if we went down into that dump, what could we find? Is there some kind of ancient library of knowledge? Some kind of quartz crystal or one of those New Age stories? Downstairs, there is a base, as it was back then. That is, it does not look like an Egyptian relic, but they are metal and composite corridors with pneumatic doors and equipment below. I don't know what exactly, but I do know that there would be places of recreation, places with bedrooms, kitchens, common areas, laboratories, and rooms full of computer equipment and location navigation for ships, portals and warehouses, engineering places such as support and accommodation systems for various species, places like medical centers, medpods, small ships. In the computers, there will be information. Everything is dormant and damaged, but some things will work. It is equivalent to what was found under Mount Busegi. Asks Robert. Do the authorities know about this? Partially at best. They hide so much that I cannot know how much they know precisely. How long have the pyramids operated for? And when did they stop working? Could you locate us more or less in time? They worked for about 3,000 years, maybe more. I can't pin it down. In Meritaten's day, they no longer worked. Asks Robert. Do you know how fast the Great Pyramid was built? In a couple of years at the most. I cannot specify these last two questions. Okay, not a problem. I have another question. About the astral travel function, out-of-body travel. What is there in the pyramid that helped and made it possible? The pyramid shape? Or some technology apart from that? In other words, why couldn't it be done under some tree or something? It's mostly the shape of the pyramid itself. In itself, that geometric shape makes a spiral of energy rebound in its interior and is of high frequency. It is mainly concentrated in the Queen's chamber, but the entire interior is affected. This in itself increases the connection with Source, making all astral experiences more efficient. It is a natural hub or amplifier for consciousness due to its internal high frequencies. It is like immersing a person and body in a higher vibrational density. In fact, that's what happens inside. The frequency inside is much higher than outside. But why did it have to be so huge if only the shape helps? It could be 6 meters. You can fit there. Comments Robert. Maybe it has to be proportional to the Earth. In itself, any pyramid, even the size of a hand, increases their frequency in general. But at these larger sizes, the concentration of energy is gigantic. The Great Pyramid itself is one of the 3 master pyramids of the Earth, along with 2 other main ones. The one of the Sun in Mexico and the one in Alaska. Asks Robert. Alaska? I've never heard of that one. It is in a militarized zone. There is another there. There are pyramids everywhere on Earth, big and small, and even submerged, Bermuda. There is more in the Crimea, and there is a Taygeta base below, abandoned. Asks Robert. Would you advise us to go to the Great Pyramid, to the King's Chamber with quartz, and do some meditation? Yes, if they let you, yes. I don't think so. You would only have strong and positive mystical experiences. If you manifest things like fear, that was already in your head, and being in a high-frequency environment, that will manifest. Okay, another question, the last one. Who had access to these pyramids to make these types of trips and have these experiences? Was it for the mystery circles or anyone could enter? Back then, pre-dynastic Egypt was holographic. Anyone could access the pyramid and do this. But then I think it became something more exclusive, right? Mystic schools were formed, initiations, etc. That was much later. Yes, Illuminati secret societies enter there outside the public eye. Classified, but it can be mentioned if you decide so. Asks Robert. I don't think rituals are done in there, right? I don't know, but it seems to me that it is a reunion point. But today, everything is possible. Asks Robert. And is there Federation activity in that area today? Yes, it is under constant supervision, but it is the area of the Cabal today. Asks Robert. Does it mean anything that they are basically 3 pyramids in Egypt? Is that for any reason or not? There are many pyramids in Egypt, but the Great Pyramid is the main one and the base of the others. Comments Robert. But I imagine that this disposition is not accidental. Not the Orion one. But for Egypt, Orion is Osiris. Orion has nothing to do with reptiles and grays. What do you mean, not the Orion one? I do not understand this phrase, Swaruu. The 3 main pyramids of Giza are aligned with Orion, but that is in honor or in line with Osiris. Osiris, Orion for the Egyptians. Asks Robert. What is the relationship between the obelisks and the pyramids, if there is any? What were they for, or what do they indicate? Yes. They are all over the world. It is atonism, based on Egypt. It is a phallic symbol pointing upwards holding a pyramid that represents the 3 deities of the constellation of Triangulum, Enlil, Anu, and Ea. The obelisk is an offering to those 3 deities. It is a look up Where there is an obelisk, it means that the Illuminati have control over that place, or it is one of their main bases, cities. It is power antenna too. What do those obelisks have to do with Enlil then? The obelisk's people are Cabal. Not only Enlil, also Anu and Ea. Anu equals Almighty Creator God. Ea equals Yahweh or Allah. Enlil equals Elohim gods, plural. Yahweh is not a person. It is an event. It is a creative orgasm. It is the Big Bang as a Yahweh, creative explosion. It is a hijacked symbol like so many others. Asks Robert. And do you know if it is true that there was a fourth black pyramid? Because the others, they say, were white. There was no pyramid of that color, nor any extra. There are traces that there was another, but it was never finished, and it did not pass the stage of the base and foundations. However, yes, there was another Sphinx. That is why Ishtar stands on two lions that symbolize Egypt, the two Sphinxes. Asks Robert, do you know anything more about that? Yes, there were two. One succumbed, and they were like the caretakers of the area at the entrance to the valley. Below, there are two dumps, one below the other. They are ancient. They contain many secrets. All this is hyper-documented, and it is not my opinion alone. Asks Robert. Do you know what's in there? Yes, I even have the map. It is an extraterrestrial base with everything that you would expect to be found inside an extraterrestrial base. Of course, they don't want that to leak to the public. Asks Robert. But is it abandoned or active? It is abandoned because it suffered a lot of damage from the flood. There are two, one on top of the other that is below. Asks Robert. And are they of the same ET race? Do you know what race it belongs to? It was the Federation base, therefore it had many races there, including us. Compound base, not race-specific. Basically, the base was positive. Later, the Egyptian culture around the pyramids grew. Asks Robert. A question. There is something that is not very clear to me. It is about the subject of slaves. There are many geoglyphs with images like slaves, and many will cling to that when we say that slavery did not exist in Egypt. I am not the only one who claims that there were no slaves. But that doesn't mean that slaves were never used throughout those 10,000 years. But as a culture, it did not use slaves, but workers. In this picture, those are prisoners of war. Notice that above they are tied around the neck. That is prisoners. Below, they are pulling things. That is workers. The concept of slaves is biblical, as selling Enlil's side as the bad guys, as having Israelites as slaves. They do not conceive that people could work like this. But not only me. Many terrestrial researchers strongly assure that these are not slaves. They are workers. It is the Romans who imposed the concept of slavery in Egypt to fulfill an agenda. Short conversation with Anéeka. Asks Robert. Do you remember or know of some historical fact around that time?
Many. like when the base was taken by force by the dark side, with Thoth, of negative line in command of those who wanted to destroy and drive away the Federation from Egypt. This, coming from the Archon forces entering to want to dominate the planet, using the lunar matrix to their benefit. Thoth became Anubis, and with him darkness covered Egypt, because his forces slaughtered many people there, forcing the Federation to seal the base and retreat, damaged, and with hundreds in black bags, dead. That is why the Federation is here in force, in large numbers, with total military superiority, and without large surface bases, only safe houses worldwide. They look like normal houses. They're used by three-letter agencies as well.
Asks Robert. That is to say that the Federation base was abandoned by an attack?
Yes.
Asks Robert. Reptile and Archon attack?
Stamped tickets. But they have high-tech in there that prevents entry, like any Doom. Archon reptile attack, exactly. It is a refuge area for the Cabal, as expected. Still a lot of Federation ship activity over the pyramids and around that area.
Recent short conversation with Yazhi. Under and in the dumps there, under Giza in general, not only the Sphinx, there is a large underground city, abandoned, referred to by the ancients as the Labyrinth. It was an old Federation base, with multiracial members. You know the date of its construction, more or less, the Sphinx, and date of pyramids construction, more or less? Directly under the Sphinx, there are several chambers that lead to a library, and under the library there is the tomb of Osiris, and towards the pyramids there is an entrance to several tunnels that lead to the pyramids and to the labyrinth or dump below. About dates. Before 12,500, time gets funny and impossible to calculate due to the plasticity it holds. But as an educated linear guess, the Sphinx is over 35,000 years old. I know the pyramids are also said to be as much as 30,000 years old, but to the best of my data, they are closer to 15,000 years old, Giza, and some are as young as 12,000 to 11,000 years old. As I said above, you cannot calculate time that is not linear, as it was not back then. And the pyramids at Giza do not show the same water damage that the Sphinx does display. So they could not have been built at the same time. And the water damage in the pyramids give you a clue that it was produced by minor floods, such as the ones the Nile would produce, and not because of a cataclysmic inundation event, water damage, such as the one the Sphinx does display. Meaning, it was totally submerged at the time of the flood, coming from Tiamat's destruction. And it was always used as the Federation base then, at that time too, before the Matrix? Again, it is hard to tell, but it was a Federation base for tens of thousands of years. The underground base is immense and consists of two basic immense layers, one above the other. The entrance holes to the dump below Giza are only 30 to 60 meters deep, very shallow. Sphinx is a lot older, and there used to be two, side by side. Swaruu. When the 3D matrix was imposed upon Earth to control the negative ones, the Van Allen belts, good people were trapped there as well, as you know. The Federation was weak, and it has suffered heavy losses due to the Tiamat fighting and wars. So, the 3D Earth Van Allen etheric shield was supposed to be a temporary measure to enclose the negative ones until the Federation could recover and find out what to do with them. But we were not going to leave the good ones there to rot. The plan was to go there and extract them, teaching them to ascend on their own in the case of the indigenous population. So the direct so-called extraterrestrials stranded on Earth after the 3D was imposed 12,500 years ago were mostly extracted by starship, leaving behind only the ones who wished to stay and the indigenous population. And those who stayed were to be taught to escape the Earth on their own, with no need of a starship or assistance from a starship crew. Jump rooms were created where the souls could escape on their own without the use of direct technology and only of so-called etheric enhancers. Those etheric enhancers augmented the frequency and intention of a consciousness to escape on their own to any star system they wished to go, the pyramids. But in general, people don't even need etheric enhancers such as the pyramids. They can learn to escape using mind alone, their intention, their consciousness alone. Mind and consciousness, even in 3D. It is that strong. But they needed a guide, at least at first. A crew was dispatched to enlighten them, help them learn to escape the matrix on their own, to trust themselves and handle their own lives, to teach them to liberate themselves and to never again fall to oppression. We are here, again, to do what we have always done. This is not new for us. We are just doing it again.